Continuing on with Hebrews. At a record pace the last few times, but it's good. Good to spend time in God's Word, study it deeply. We can never reach the end of all the revelation contained in this book about God, lived out in Jesus. And he gave it all for us to study. Revelation, never ending. Just the fact that our God gave us a path, gave us a written down record of how to follow him, how to serve him, and who he is what would we just be kind of grasping? Taking. He is gracious. All right, so we are in chapter 10. We covered verses about 26 to 31 last time, and that covered, it got into the concept of sin and willful sin versus sin that we are, because we're still broken, because we're still learning, because we're still growing, we make mistakes, we err, but it's not our intention. It's not our purpose. Our purpose is to serve him. And that's the difference between this idea of if we've accepted Christ and completely turn away from that, there is no other path to redemption. Like, Christ isn't going to come and die for people again. Like, that is the path. And if we reject that, there is no hope. But we're not those that have rejected him. We may struggle here and there. We may make some mistakes here and there, but our purpose is to seek him, pursue him with all our heart. And there's no condemnation in that. There's no fear in that, because we're not saved because we did all the right things. We're not saved because we read our Bible every day, or we prayed as much as we're supposed to, or we did anything. We're saved because we put our trust in Jesus Christ. And then the only thing that would cost us that salvation is to reject Christ. So we don't need to be fearful. We don't need to worry about our salvation. Like, we're saved as long as we are intentionally pursuing God. And there's great joy and peace in that. We can rest in that. We know that he says he's coming back. There is going to be a future judgment. He's going to come in and he's going to set the record straight for everyone. And we can trust in that going well for us as if we've spent a life pursuing him, if we continue to pursue him and push in closer, and as long as we haven't chosen to reject him. There's rewards for our life, the way we live it, but there's safety just knowing that we trust him and he's our God. We're not trying to live a life trying to get away with as much as we can. We're trying to live a life pursuing him ever more every day, and that's the life he wants for us, and that's the best life we can live. All right, so moving on to verses 32 through 39, the end of the chapter. I think I have a slide that, if you want to read along with the version I'm using, which is ESV, we can track together with that. All right, so verse 32, "But recall the former days when, after you were enlightened, you endured a hard struggle with sufferings, sometimes being publicly exposed to reproach and affliction, and sometimes being partners with those so treated. For you had compassion on those in prison, and you joyfully accepted the plundering of your property, since you knew that you yourselves had a better possession and an abiding one. Therefore do not throw away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that when you've done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. For yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by faith, and if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But we are not those who shrink back and are destroyed, but we are those who have faith and preserve their souls." Again here, I believe this is Paul who authored this. There, again, we're still in this idea of a life in pursuit of him is the only true life. He's using an athletic metaphor here. He's talking about like they knew about the Colosseum, then the Greeks were into the Olympics and all that athletic competition, and he's kind of likening our walk to a race. And so if you're in a race, you're not just kind of strolling along. You're not wandering off the track. You're not just sitting down and hoping everything works out and somehow you'll win. There's an action on your part. You're running. You're pursuing. You want to strive to win. That's your goal, to finish the race well. And it's this balancing act. It's kind of what I was saying already. There's this balancing act of actually, it shouldn't be a balancing act when it comes down to it. A wholehearted pursuit of God is what we're after here. This is the life. Our thoughts and our brokenness get us on this guilt track of feeling like we're not doing enough, and we're getting our focus onto the wrong things. If we're feeling guilt, if we're feeling shame, then our pursuit is not necessarily focused on Jesus. It's focusing on what we think we need to do to get to him, when that's already done. He's already done the work. We've already made that choice to pursue him. And our work now is to work on our heart and to learn more and more about him, that we can pursue him, that we can grow more and more into Christ's image, that we live the life out of that in pursuit of him. It's not based on what we do. It's based on, it's hard to say. It's ultimately, our life is how we live it. We can't do whatever we want, but have good intentions. Again, I think I use that dog metaphor. Like that, if you have an out-of-control dog, it's doing whatever it wants to do, and it may feel free in that, but you have to restrict that dog because it can't be safe around people. And if we're living our lives unrestrained and walking out however we feel, however we, whatever urges we have, then we're not safe for people. We're not safe with God's message. And a heart that's pursuing him is going to be safe and is going to be ever more free, because God can trust you with more and more if you show that you're willing to put yourself down and live a life like Jesus did, in full humility and sacrifice to God's will. All right, verses 33 and 34, where Paul's referring to this group of people that he's talking to have faced oppression in the past. They have potentially, they're part of the Jew. There's a time in AD 49, the year 49, that the Jews were kicked out of Rome, and that may have been tied to this. But so if they were kicked out, they were forced to give up their property. They were forced out of their homes and their lives. And Paul's referring to this. They went through that before, and they kept their faith. And he's encouraging them to saying, "You've done this before. We can get through this. There's a future. There's hope." And so that's this hard struggle with sufferings. He talks about them being publicly exposed. This idea of being like put on stage in front of everyone, to their shame. And he talks about being partners with those that were, and sometimes it's harder for us to be connected to people that we love that are going through a hard time than it is for us ourselves to actually go through that for them. And so that can be even harder part of life when we see those around us struggling, when we know that they're not understanding God's truth for them and we want better for them, or those that do truly love God and are being oppressed for it. And again, culturally, we do not, I think most of the oppression we face in this country is in our own heads, kind of, to a degree. We have this mindset that a lot of times, I think if we were to speak out for Jesus, or if we were going to live our lives like he wants us to, like in love, that it's going to be fought back against. We're going to be embarrassed. We're going to be, mocked or whatever. And I know I've let that restrict me from how I've talked to people, engaged with people at times. But also I know, for the most part, people are kinder than we give them credit for, I think, in a lot of those cases. But there is truth in the heart of someone who has not accepted Christ is in opposition to Christ. And their spirit is opposed to him. So there is going to be resistance frequently in the message of Jesus, of him crucified. And again, culturally, we don't face a whole lot. If you pay attention to the news at all, around the fringes especially, there's real oppression out there. There's real, people are being jailed and murdered and for their faith in Christ. And thank God that we're not facing that right now, but that is a possibility. But it's also a reality around the world. And we don't hear, I don't think, nearly as much as actually of that is, I don't think we hear nearly all of that happens. And they are our family. We are in the same body, and they deserve our prayer. They deserve our empathy and our help in any way that God puts on our heart to do that. Whether there's a way for you to financially, whether there's a way you can support someone that you know, whether there's a way to go on a trip, or whether there's a way to just, like I said, prayer is both the most basic thing and yet the most important thing. Our prayer brings God's power into action on this earth. But again, our family is being tormented in the world because of their faith for Christ, because of their love for Christ. And that the pain of knowing that should spur us to action. But so he's referring to that being the case for some of them. They're witnessing it. Their friends and family have been, and church family have been persecuted. He had compassion with those in prison, and that compassion means they suffered just as if they were in the prison with them. We can think about these hard things for ourselves, but if we know someone is going through something, God's heart is with them. Jesus lived this life partially to be able to relate to us in whatever we're going through, and that in Jesus, through the Spirit, is in us. That heart, his heart of compassion, is in us, and we should be able to tap into that and have that heart of compassion that would spur us to action and love to those people that are hurting, those people that are in prison, those are people that are in pain especially because those that are serving God. We're not facing prison for Jesus for the most part in our country, but there are. But we're here to support each other. We're here as we push against the dark forces in this world. We will face opposition, and we want to be supportive of each other, and we want to be that encouragement to each other to be able to be bold in those contexts despite the consequences, because we know, yes, God is with me, but also my family is with me. My church supports me. The body of Christ supports me, and we're all in this together, and we want to support each other as much as we possibly can. Again, I mentioned the plundering of their property. They were probably evicted from their homes and lost it, and they were able to take joy in the fact, we were talking about this with our Thursday night Bible study in 1 Corinthians. Paul's talking about the fact that you can have, like Jesus, for the joy set before him. Paul was able to go through all the suffering because he saw the glorious future he had, and he was able to take joy in the fact that he was living a challenging, persecuted life just like Jesus, because he felt like he was taking part in the same life the way Jesus did. The same spirit, the same path for him was to live a life like Jesus, putting his life down for the rest of the world, for the gospel, for the message, in light, but not just as as uncomfortable, but he could take joy in that because he saw this is just a short-term problem. This is short-term pain. These are small issues in light of our glorious future together, because God loves us, and that's our future as we join together with Him. So if they were Jews, they would be cut off from their nation. They were culturally. If they were Jews and if they joined the body of Christ, if they chose to make this way of salvation through Jesus, they were casting aside their family, their history, because the Jews were rejecting the Christians by this time as not being part of the family anymore. And if Gentiles, they were cutting themselves off from what was normal society. Again, in Bible study, we talk about normal society was pagan. In the Greek culture, Roman culture, the Romans kind of adopted the Greek culture, was full of pagan worship, and the life was centered around going to temples and sacrifices to idols and these feasts and sexual immorality and all this stuff. If you accepted Jesus, you were stepping out of that culture. We have a kind of vaguely Christianized culture, I think, at this point in America, and it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a difference of a lifestyle to say, I'm going to follow Jesus. Yeah, maybe you stop. Maybe you talk a little different. Maybe you're not going to the same places anymore. But generally speaking, it's not that unacceptable to live a Christian life, so to speak, in our culture. But it was drastically different. You had to disengage completely from society. And I think more and more as time goes on, it is more and more drastic, the difference between a life truly lived out for Jesus and the way our culture is drifting less and less that Christian culture, that Bible Belt kind of mentality where, everyone just kind of vaguely accepts God and vaguely accepts you should go to church and that's a good thing. I think we're getting farther and farther away from that, and our lives should be more and more a set apart example of God and the difference it is to truly walk out your faith. So they recognize, basically, with an eye to the future, they joyfully accepted this, like I talked about with Paul, and referencing our year verse, looking to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, for the joy set before him. That joy comes because we're partners with Jesus. We're going to spend forever with him, and he loves us so much. And there's no... we're not capable of comprehending how much awaits us in that future. We just know our God is good. And if we let our thoughts wander, it can feel scary because it's unknown in some respect. But our God is good all the time. He's love, and there is nothing but good for you in your future. And that's what we can take that's where we get our peace and our joy in this life as we walk through. Now, regardless of what we're seeing now. And it's not all just some far off future. I think there's a tendency to when we get to glory, kind of this older mindset that we don't hear, I guess, as much anymore, but the old timer kind of our flow of Christianity. he's here with us now today too. But we are still in this world. It's not yet. It's the work is done. We have this life. We have a relationship. We can walk day to day, hand in hand with Christ through this life. But we have an eye to the future, because that's the ultimate prize. And we want to not go alone. It's if our heart is, at least I'm good and I get to go to heaven, then we're missing a whole lot of what the point is here. The point is, how many people can we bring along? God loved the world. He loves me, yeah, for sure, but he loved the world. And we're all, if we have God's heart, our passion will be for how many people can we bring along with us in this life to go. Let's keep going. Verse 35, do not throw away your confidence. This word confidence is parousia, I guess we'll say, in Greek. Outspokenness, frankness, bluntness, publicity, by implication, assurance, being bold, freedom in speaking. This, I think a lot of times you read that word confidence, you think of like, I feel good. I feel like internally I'm good. But this is an outward expression of that. This isn't just, I feel good inside and then I can go through, with my head held high, but I live life however. This is an outspoken expression of of that confidence in you. It's not restrained. It's out. It flows out of you. I am confident in Jesus because, and that flows out to everyone you come in contact with. They had been bold in their previous trial, and he wants them to continue with that. And that confidence, like we talked about before, in Jesus as our priest, we have that confidence to enter the throne room. That confidence of we can just enter into God's presence wherever we want because we're in Jesus. And that's the kind of confidence that should be flowing out of us everywhere, every moment of our lives. We are in the throne room wherever we go. We bring that throne room with us, an expression of God's love and grace and power wherever we go. And that confidence should take us, we should be able to remember, like, if you're not feeling that confident, remember that. Remember, I can stand before God with my head held high because I'm his child. I can walk into his house because I'm his kid. There's this sense where if you're truly, again, I've touched on this before, where you're truly in God's presence, it's just, his awesomeness is overwhelming and we would feel unworthy. Like we talk about Isaiah and some people that have truly just stepped into God's presence and know that it's just overwhelming. But that's given when we get like a sense of God's power. But again, it's both of those things. It's like God is this unbelievably, awesomely, overwhelmingly powerful being that no one can really stand in his presence in that regard, but also we are, in spite of that, in light of that, we are still able to just, again, walk in to his house and be with him because he loves us and he likes us and he wants to hang out with us. And that, if we truly grasp that concept, that God cares about us in that way, we can walk anywhere boldly and know wherever we go, we are loved, safe, trusted, and powerful, and carrying God's love and grace. And if we're not feeling it, meditate on that. Spend some time with that. Like, realize, again, all this, these are choices, but they're filtered through whatever we've got going on in our soul, in our mind, and we need to, if we're not walking that out, if we're not feeling that, then we need to step back and spend some time with him and meditate on these things. This is why we have the Word. It's not a magic book, but it reveals us the Almighty God and his heart and his love and compassion. And that's why it's worth studying these things, to understand what we're reading and get a more and more ingrained, accurate picture of who our God is, how great he is, and how much he loves us. That's why it's worth spending this time with him. You have need of endurance in verse 36. And this is kind of the main point of his letter. He's written a speech to them because he's concerned about them falling away. He's concerned with them backing off and not keeping their focus on Jesus and looking away. So this line is really the point of the whole thing. You need to endure. I'm going to tell you how you endure, and that's eyes on Jesus. And I'm going to encourage you that you can, and we're going to look to a whole bunch of people that did ahead of you in chapter 11. This word, endurance, hupomene. Again, I got to work on my Greek, I guess, pronunciations. In the New Testament, it's the characteristics of a man who is not swerved from his deliberate purpose and his loyalty to faith and piety by even the greatest trials and challenges. We stay true. If we walk in that perseverance, we don't, regardless of what comes against us, regardless of what we're seeing around us, we know we have made the choice to be loyal and faithful to God. And I think in all streams of Christianity, there's sides of the ditch you can go with some things. And ours is this, we so believe that we want to encounter God every day, and that we want to experience his presence and be used by him and his gifts, and his this daily relationship, this experiencing him. That there's a danger in the ditch we can get off to is letting our feelings be what moves us. And whether we think or not, we feel the power of God with us. We feel his presence with us. And a lot of times we focus too much on the feeling aspect, and we need to go back to, I made a choice, and this is God, and whatever he says I'm going to do. And not let how I feel in the moment, and my wife's probably thinking right now, I'm guilty of, for sure, struggling with consistency with things. I make plans, and then the follow-through kind of is hit or miss depending on how I feel in the moment. And I recognize that in myself, and I'm working on that. But that's not how we walk out this life. That's not how we live our life with God. It's not based on how we feel in the moment. It's not based on what we see going on around us. Yes, we have a sense, his spirit is in us, and we can sense what he's speaking to us. We can hear his voice. And it's hard to explain because it's a little different, I think, for everybody. I think that's partially God's plan to make it so you can't just get the answer and then have someone solve it for you. It's between you and him, and working out how you engage with him and how you hear his voice and how you recognize when he's speaking to you. But the danger is to let everything be based on how I feel in the moment, instead of this endurance, this choice. I have made a choice. I will live my life based on that choice, regardless of how I feel in the moment or not. The truth is, and that's what I base my actions on. Not, I don't know, not I let myself kind of get run down and now I'm not going to make good choices. Like that's not the life God has for you. God has a fully engaged, fully pursued path for you. And a lot of the growth comes in taking the steps when the feelings aren't there. And this is what this is about. This is why they need that endurance. They need to not wander off depending on how the feelings are going in one way or the other, how you sense God's presence or not with you. Yes, it's true that he comes and makes his presence known. We feel his presence here when we come together, but it's very easy to get a little to let our thoughts get in the way, to get distracted with those thoughts and feelings. If they're coming from us, if they're coming from our unrenewed mind, if they're coming from our renewed soul, they are not going to be positive towards Christ. And as long as we're in these bodies, we're going to fight that all the time. We have to be aware. We have to be kind of rigorously. That's the putting yourself down daily. That's putting those feelings aside, putting how you feel in your body aside, and moving on and making the right choices. Whatever you know is in front of you to do, that's what we do regardless of the feelings. And this is the opposite of lethargy. He refers to this lethargy in 5:11, but it's a boldness, it's a strength to just take those steps and keep moving forward, and let the feelings come and go. The feelings, as we grow in him, our feelings will more and more line up with the truth as we get more and more renewed. And that's something to look forward to if we're struggling with in the moment. I know a lot of us have struggled with anxiety and depression and things like that, and you can feel like the world's ended. I'm sure a lot of us have felt that at different points in our life. But we're all here. God's still good. You got people here that care about you. Like this, the feelings are never the truth. God is truth. His word is the truth. All right. So, moving on. When you've done the will of God, you may receive what he's promised, and that is, again, he's promised good things for this life. We have a body to relate to. We have gifts, and we have God's presence with us, but it's also an eye to the future. And this is going to be spelled out as we move forward. Verses 37, 38. This is it's a little tricky one here. There's a quote from Isaiah and a quote from Habakkuk. And I don't want to spend too much time with this, but I'll read the Isaiah quote. It's from Isaiah 26, 20 and 21. It says, "Come, my people, enter your chambers and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until the fury is passed by. Behold, the Lord is coming out from his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, and the earth will disclose the blood shed on it. There will be no more cover for the slain." So this is a prophecy from Isaiah, and the focus is on the coming judgment. Like, the evil will be condemned by God. If those who resist him, that their end is not good, and that's kind of what Isaiah is speaking to here. He talks the line, if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure to him. My soul has no pleasure in him. And he's, again, that reference is to the person who's following God, the righteous follower, not Christ. But it is looking back to, the line here is looking back to Israel when they failed God. And it's kind of quoting Moses at the end of Deuteronomy. He gives kind of this big last speech, it's Moses' song. And it's not a positive thing. It's like you're going to all turn from God. You're not going to fall through. But pretty much we know this. And he talks about their failings and what their future is, but God's still going to redeem them in the end. So it's calling back to that. And then my righteous shall live by faith is Habakkuk 2, 3, and 4, which says, "For the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It's not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by faith." And we've heard the just shall live by faith. It's quoted multiple times. It's quoted in Romans and Galatians. I don't want to get too tied down in here, but this quote was about the coming judgment to, it says the Chaldeans, which is the Babylonians. This is when he's speaking to Judah, who's in exile in Babylon. And God's saying there's a judgment coming to the Babylonians. So this rough situation you're in exile, God is going to take care of it. He's going to judge the Babylonians. So there's some wordplay in here. There's some alterations depending on the quote about what the clarity is. So if you're reading back on this and they don't kind of line up, it's kind of interesting to dig into, but basically, because it can be, some people will take this as the righteousness is the righteousness of God. So it's the just shall live by God's righteousness. And the quote really is talking about the righteous man. It's not about God's righteousness. And some people, depending on that was loose. Some people, in their view of this whole thing, want to say, basically, it's you don't really have free will. It's God's going to decide everything. He's going to decide everything that happens in the world, and he's going to decide who's going to come to him and who's not going to come to him. And they will use this verse and say it's God's faith. It's God's righteousness that decides all this stuff. And if you read it here, and the author of Hebrews, who I think is Paul, the idea is it is our faith. It is our choice to put our faith in God. It is not entirely up to him. He has done the work. We love him because he first loved us. Christ has already come. We don't earn it in any way, but we do have to make a choice in response to him. And so, if anyone ever uses this verse to try to say it's all God and you're just kind of along for the ride, that's not true. I wanted to clarify that a little bit, which I don't know if I really did, but there's too much to get into that I want to spend half an hour just exploring that verse. But just so you know, the quotes and verses may say it a little bit different, but Paul takes it and says, no, this is what we mean, and this is why he says it the way he does. But again, these quotes are both referencing a time of judgment. There's a current time of judgment referenced, like in this life now, when it was the Jews in exile, the Israelites in exile. And there's this future one in the Isaiah quote, which is the ultimate end of days when Jesus comes back and judges the world. So it's tying both of these together. Again, that's that already but not yet. The work is done, the work is still going to be done, kind of thing, by Christ. And we're here living this life out so that as many as can come to God as possible. That's why where God has extended this time. He's won the victory. The world's still broken. We're here to try to help redeem as many people as possible. That's why we're here, to make disciples, bring them into his kingdom before this end of times. All right. Verse 39, but we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but to those of faith, who have faith and preserve their souls. Again, I believe this is Paul, and he's speaking over them the truth, and he's bringing himself into it. He's not just yelling at them to get their act together. We are not those that shrink back. He's a part of them. He's engaging with them, and he's speaking the truth over them. This is not who you are. If you're thinking about backing down, that's not really you. That's your broken view of God. That's your broken understanding of who he is and his love for you. And that's not who we are. We're part of this family. The truth is, we are those who have faith and move forward and preserve our souls. And God will preserve us to the end because we walk hand in hand with him. And we are invited in this line to join the faithful ones that we're about to go through the list of in Hebrews 11. And I guess we'll skip that. There's a lot going on in the world these days, and only God knows where this is all going to end, how these things are going to resolve. And we're in this world. Like, this is what we have to work with. But we have God's grace. And I'll read 2 Peter 3, 9 to 13. 2 Peter 3, 9 to 13. It speaks to this. It said, "The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance." Like we were just talking about. That's why we're here. "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn? But according to his promise, we are waiting for a new heavens and new earth, in which righteousness dwells." This is all going to go away. This language could be literal, could be figurative, probably figurative, but either way, the end result is we are going to be eternally with God in new heaven and new earth. And all these little things that we get caught up with are going to go away. All these little worries. Jesus said, "Do not worry about tomorrow." Well, I got you. It's all going to be taken care of. Seek his kingdom first. All these things will be added. The relationships matter. the people matter. Our view of God matters, because that's what the rest of our life flows out of. But try to, whenever you can, take that step back, pull back a little bit, and say, will this matter in an hour? Will this matter in a year? Will this matter in 10 years? Will this matter in eternity? And if not, I probably have to do something with it. No, if it's like file your taxes, you should still do that, you know. But yeah, case in point. But pull back, do what you know you need to do in light of that, and ask God, what do I need here? What wisdom do I need? What grace do I need? What's the step in light of eternity? What should I be doing here? And evaluate where we're at and what we're doing with our time, and where our focus is on. These things, especially when we let them just be in our head, build and build and build, and they end up being inconsequential. Like, the percentage of things we worry about and we can look back on, how many of them turned out like you worried about? It's probably a pretty low percentage, unless you're a gifted prophet, I guess. But I guess then it wouldn't be worry, it'd probably be just knowing. But so there's crap in this world. There's stuff that we can't fix because the world's a broken place. There's people we love and we can't manipulate them. God doesn't do that. Look at how he treated all these people that he gave so much for. Like, look at the Israelites. Every once in a while, he sort of had to clean house just to keep the good ones safe. And sometimes there were some groups that had to be eliminated because they were just fully committed to demonic forces that were he knew were irredeemable and had to be destroyed to save the rest. But other than that, he put it out there, he gave them directions, and then he just let them do it. And that's how he handles us. Everyone, we can do what we want. And I don't know that I would do it that way, because I know I would be super frustrated with my kids if I just was like, hey, figure it out, here's the information, go with it. But he's always there. He's not like, go off and maybe I'll come find you someday. He's right there with them all the time. He's always available. But he's just like, here you go. I hope you come back. I hope you find me. I'm right here. I'll give you all the help I can. But he's not going to manipulate. And we can't manipulate it. We can encourage. We can love. But if it's not from the pure motive, it's false. It's not going to work out. And that's how we change the world, is when if we have that heart, people know. People know if they're being manipulated, ultimately. Some people want to be manipulated. It comes down to, like, in our core. Like, you may not be cognizant, but people can tell. People can tell by your little eye rolls and expressions and stuff, where your heart really is. So we need to work on our hearts, because people can read that, and because that's the way they're going to be drawn to you and thus to him, is if your heart is right, if your heart is as God's, if his spirit can flow freely through you without a really broken filter that distorts the light that's coming out, that's what's going to draw people to him. That's where they're going to be able to fully experience life. And this isn't, the world isn't great, but that doesn't mean we need to suffer through. It doesn't mean you have to live a miserable life. Whatever there is that feels hard, if we keep the right perspective, we know it's going to work out. It may feel hard in the moment, but we know we have the victory in the end. We know we're with Christ in the end. But also we know he's here right with us in every moment of every day, and he gives us the grace and the resources that we need to handle whatever we're facing, self-inflicted or not. He doesn't run away because we screwed up. Because I think ultimately, except for like when people, how do I want to say this? I think a large percentage of the problems we face in life are self-inflicted, whether we realize it or not. And he's still always willing to meet you and help you and fix what he can. So, like, if you've got one thing where you're like, I screwed that up, he can never fix it, or he won't fix it because it's my fault, it's pretty much all your fault already. So all the other things that he fixed before, he didn't care it was your fault. He did it anyway. He'll meet you wherever you are. He can fix whatever, he can redeem, fix is probably the wrong word. He can redeem whatever's happened in your life. Whatever you've done to yourself or to others or not, or maybe it's just entirely out of your control, he can redeem it. If we let him. We have to give it to him. We can't try to fix it ourselves. We can't take it on ourselves. We don't have that kind of control. However well you think your life is going, it's not because you're doing great. It's because you're walking in his grace and will and his will. Any sense of control you have in your life is a mirage. It's all in. How do I want to say it? I'm trying to say things correctly here. He's not deciding everything. He's not choosing that there are children being abused. He's not choosing to send earthquakes. He's not choosing these things. This is part of being in a broken world and people having free will. It's a consequence of everyone being able to make their own choice. And the brokenness in the world and the sin into the world through the fall and things like that. But he's ready, willing, and able to, again, I guess, redeem whatever there is that we're going through. So we can live in joy. We can live in, I am not quite there yet with Paul when the joyfully welcome the shipwrecks and the beatings and all that thing, because I get to live a life like Christ. I need more renewing in my mind to get that point. I'm not there yet, but it's something I'd like to strive for. Man, if I can get there, everything else probably seems going to be pretty easy, I think, at that point. So there's more to grow. I know I have more to grow in my understanding of this and pursuing him. But there can be joy in every single moment of every single day, regardless of what's going on around us and what we feel like to us. So let's rest in that. Not think I've got to suffer through the rest of my life like this. It's not. We can be just ecstatic regardless of what's going on, because we can find him in the moments. The fact that we get to be used is such a uplifting and just a great experience. When you know that you made a difference in someone's life, that God was used you, is so much better than like you getting something like a check or some money that you needed or something like that. It's great that you got kind of rescued there in those moments, but the fact that you get to be part of his kingdom, be used by him, there's no downside to that. There's no like, yeah, that feels good, but it's just I got to be used, I got to be part, and I got to make a difference. And that's that true joy. It's better to give than receive. That is true. I know at Christmas time, kids and stuff, it doesn't feel like that, but that's the truth. So we can be perpetually connected to living God, living in victory day after day. And Jesus is up there Jesus is continually interceding for us. He is in prayer. He is selling us to God. Like, look how great they are. Look how great they're doing. And we're gonna get, I was hoping to get some into Hebrews 11 here, but we're not going to. But as we look ahead, if you want to read ahead in chapter 11, there's the way God views these broken people that messed up and just talks about how great these are the heroes of the faith. Just, you can use that for a little perspective on how God's looking at you and how you're doing. These are, we're going to see, they're murderers. They make some really awful choices, and God looks at them and like, look how great they did. And you're part of that. You can be part of that family. And I view you just as I view them. Jesus, again, for the joy set before him, endured the cross. We can live with that same perspective. We can see his promises for our future. We get to see the life Jesus lived and how he fulfilled thousands of years of prophecy. And we can look back and see God is able. All this time they were going through the exiles and the famines and all these things, and they probably felt like there was no hope. But you can look back and see all this stuff was fulfilled. God took care of it, and Jesus fulfilled it's ridiculous, the statistical improbability of Christ being able to fulfill all those promises. God is able to make a way where there doesn't seem to be a way, for sure. So let's live our lives out together in light of this. We're all here to encourage each other, see the good in each other, and speak the truth over each other in love, that we can walk this out like he wants to, in pursuit of him together. So that again, the whole goal here is we want to encourage everyone that doesn't know him to know him, and everyone that knows him to know him better, and to be able to endure and walk in boldness and grace and health and life. And that's why we're here. So that's our God. Let's worship him.